so here's what happened. I got really distracted at the end of this last part that I was reading, okay? The chapter was called Do Not Let Go. So I got really distracted because I was like so close to the end, and then I was like, do I keep reading? Do I not keep reading? Well, I actually missed a part of it. So I'm actually going to reread the end of that last page, okay? So we've got Kimu and Bob. Kimu pulled Bob out of the water, and Bob has the puppy Rowdy in his mouth, okay? Kimu says to him, I'm rereading. Didn't take you for the sentimental sort, Bob. I'm not, just, you know how it is. No, actually, I don't know. I'm a wild animal, not a pet. Still, I clear my throat and remind myself that rolling over and peeing myself is not an acceptable option. Still and all, he's scrawny, might even be dead. Who knows? You get better breakfast at the park. I started to catch this the first time, but now I'm really catching it. He's saying, Kimu, you get better breakfasts than my nephew. I recognize all too well the look he gives me. The look of sadness and loss and anger. The look of someone who will never forgive the world. He's running with the puppy dangling from his jaws before I even know what's happened. How? I don't know how I do it. If I did know, maybe I could understand that other part of me, that wolf part. I run faster than I've ever run. I growl louder than I've ever growled. I grab Kimu's throat and I clamp down, and I do not let go. Gone. He can kill me. With a sidelong glance and a half-hearted bite, he can kill me. I know that. But he doesn't. He drops the puppy. He shakes me off and pulls free. He pauses, looks at me like he's seeing me for the first time. He gazes at the sky thick with clouds, no moon, barely any sun. He raises his head. His howl is long and sad and beautiful. He runs. First aid. Rowdy still isn't moving. I don't know what else to do, so I bite the heck out of his tail. Perks the little guy right up. The truth. It hits me then. I'm so tired, so banged up. I can't go on, even if I want to. I carry Rowdy to a sheltering tree, cuddle him close, give him a couple of licks for good measure. Now what? He asks. Now, I say, we wait. For what? For humans, I answer. For help. Are you sure they'll come? I think for a moment. I remember all the people I've seen today. The police, rescue workers, park employees, staff at the shelter, folks at the donut shop opening their door to a strange collection of animals. I remember George running to get Julia, and Julia trying to get me, and Sarah struggling to find them both. I breathe in the sweet smell of puppy. It's important to tell the truth. I'm sure, I say. He's saying that he believes that somebody is going to come and get them, that some human is going to come and help. Because at this time, what has he been seeing from all the humans around? Them trying to help and them doing the right thing. Forever. The eye of the hurricane passes. The storm rages on. Feels like a year. Like 9 years even. It feels like forever. Oh my gosh, look at that picture. Rescue. When I hear Julia calling my name through the open window of her parents' car, I pick up Rowdy and dash over like it's my favorite place on this lonely ball called Earth. No clickers necessary. No treats required. I fly my drool flag all the way home. Remember the clicker to like get him in the car and get him to do stuff and treats? He gets right in the car. No issue. And he flies his drool flag all the way home. Part 4. Aftermath. We've lost 10 park residents total. 8 deaths, plus 2 still missing. No humans died, but there were some injuries. They've already started rebuilding. It's funny the way people go right back at it after a tragedy. Everyone comes together. Lots of talk about community and kumbaya, blah, 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 blah. They're a resilient species, I'll give them that. It's been 3 weeks and we still don't have Kimu back. Suzu either. There's been some sightings, nothing for sure. I worry they can't last long. Wolves aren't native to this part of the world. I like to think they're together, at least. So the wolves have interesting. They've escaped and haven't been caught yet. 2 still missing. They're the 2 that are still missing. Everybody else is back with makeshift domains. Nobody's complaining, though. In spite of all the construction, Julia's been taking me to see Ivan and Ruby whenever she can. Today, Ivan leans on the temporary fence separating him from the elephants. Maya made him a medal for valor out of a watermelon and cucumbers. He's eaten most of it. Look at his medal out of watermelon and cucumbers. That's what the zookeeper made him. It's pretty great. Almost everybody we saved from the shelter ended up with a home. Oh, wait. Let me start over again. It's pretty great. Almost everybody we saved from the shelter ended up with a home, says Ivan. Even that annoying bunny. Almost everyone, I reminded him. I'm so sorry about Boss, he says in his gentle way. From what we can tell, Boss never went into the donut shop. She slipped away and no one knows what happened to her. I try not to feel hurt, but I had this silly fantasy about me and her and Rowdy all hanging out together like a family. And I so wanted her to know what it's like to have a warm bed and a full bowl and a good ear scratch whenever you need it. I wanted her to know she deserves that as much as any dog. I guess she'd lived life too long on her own terms, or maybe she was afraid to get her hopes up, to trust. I understand. Been there, done that. But sometimes humans don't let you down. Sometimes they even come to the rescue. Riddle. Uncle Bob, Ruby calls, galloping over. She seems more confident these days, a little more grown up. Stella would be proud. I know I am. Want to hear my new riddle? Absolutely I do. Ruby flaps her ears. She does that when she gets excited. What has an eye but cannot see? I am perplexed, Ruby, pondering and puzzled. A hurricane, she exclaims. Good one, Ruby, first rate. I look at Ivan. We smile at each other. We don't need to say a thing. It's enough to listen to the palm trees rustle and watch the sawgrass sway. Working on it. On the way home, we pass the shelter. It's been patched up pretty well, looks like. And they're back in business. I hear the usual yelps and howls and hisses and meows, and like always, I feel lousy. I plop down on the sidewalk and Julia stops walking. What's going on, Bob? She asks. I listen, like I always do. What's he listening for? For her bark. That bark. Nope, nothing. I wish Rowdy were here to distract me, but he's still learning how to walk on tug-of-war string. He's a pretty swell pup, even if he's a little feisty. I'm surprised how much I like having him around the house. It's weird. I feel responsible for the little guy. Sort of like he's become my numero uno. Juliet bends down and strokes my head. I wag my tail a bit, slowly stand. I think of poor old Julius, stuck in that backyard day and night. I think of Boss roaming the streets. I think of my siblings. The dark night, the box, the highway. I'm trying hard to find the forgiveness that seems to come so naturally to other dogs. Maybe that's what Boss was getting at. Maybe it's easier to forgive others once you've learned how to forgive yourself. I'm working on it. It's like a bone. Sometimes you have to chew for a long time before you make any progress. Remember, he's still feeling guilt. Snickers again. Once we're home, I head for the couch. I'm snoozing peacefully with Rowdy when a smell, doozy of a smell, assaults my schnoz, which is finally back to work in order. It's her. Snickers is back. She's been gone for a while. After the hurricane, they had to do some repairs to Mac's house. Not sure where Snickers had been staying. But that's definitely her smell. No doubt about it. I dive under the couch, but not before Nutwood appears at the front window. Oh, Bobo, he calls. Someone's looking for you. I'm not home, I yell. Yeah, I don't think she'll take no for an answer, says Nutwit. Shouldn't you be rebuilding your nest? Nah, watching you cower in fear is way more fun. What's the deal, Uncle Bob? Rowdy asks. Be afraid, Rowdy. I say, be very afraid. The door opens, and there's Julia with Snickers by her side. Well, hello there, Snickers, says Sarah as she passes through the living room. What are you doing here? Mac and his wife just moved back in, Julia says. They called this afternoon and said Snickers was dying for a walk. I ease back a little farther under the couch. Can Snickers see me? Maybe not, but she most definitely can smell me. For once, I regret my pungent aroma. Snickers darts across the living room, straight to the couch, pulling Julia along for the ride. Snickers, Julia exclaims. Slow down, girl. She kneels. Bob, are you hiding under there? I move an inch, exposing my snout. Snickers goes insane. She yanks free of her tug-of-war string. For a moment, she pauses to do a polite nose tap with Rowdy. Then she lets Zeus loose with zoomies and yips and howls of joy. Bob, Julia says, come on out and say hi. I pretend not to hear her, which isn't a big stretch since Snickers is barking like a maniac. Robert, says Julia. Fine. I belly crawl out until I'm exposed. Snickers is ecstatic. She showers me with licks and nips and nudges and leaps. Bob, she grins, how I've missed you. I cover my head with my paws, but there's no escaping her adoration. There's a reason we survived, Bob, she says, her fuzzy tail in high gear. The fates want our love to blossom. Is this your girlfriend, Uncle Bob? Rowdy inquires. That's him, cowering, hiding. Remember, Snickers hasn't seen him since the animal shelter and then the donut shop. girlfriend today, Snickers responds in a giddy voice. But who knows what tomorrow may bring? Perhaps you should start calling me Aunt Snickers. I am relieved beyond measure when Julia finally pulls Snickers with great effort out the door. I try to ignore Nutwit's teasing. I try to tolerate Rowdy's stifled laughter. But when Minnie starts chanting, remember Minnie's one of the guinea pigs, Bob and Snickers, followed by Moose, sitting in a tree, I've had enough. I head for my doggy door, ignoring the popcorning guinea pigs, and try to locate my dignity. He's embarrassed. A visitor. This evening is like lots of other evenings. The guinea pigs are squeaking, Nutwick is puttering in his tree, Julie and Sarah and George are watching something about meerkats on the Nature Channel. I've just settled in with Rowdy on the couch when George drops a cookie on the floor. I leap into action. Robert, says Julia, leave it. Briefly, I consider my options, but not for long. At least I share a piece with Rowdy. You are hopeless, Julia says, but I love you anyway. And that's when we hear the bark. It's coming from the front porch. That's weird, says George. I'll check it out. Julia runs to the door and pulls it open. She hesitates. She looks over at me, back at the porch, back at me. Bob, she says, I think it's for you. And it is. Remember he told her where they lived. Remember? He told Boss where he lived. I'm so happy. I was so nervous throughout this book that we were going to lose somebody. Okay? I was nervous. And I'm so glad it has a happy ending. There's an author's note from the author. Dogs. Aren't they just the best? If you answered no or even yes with a hint of ambivalence, what is wrong with you? Sorry, even if you're not on Team Canine, I'm sure you're a swell person. Maybe you're a cat fanatic or a guinea pig fan. I get that. I love all kinds of creatures, right down to tarantulas and naked mole rats. And I'll admit that some dogs are easier to love than others. My own mutt Stan is a case in point. Mercurial, needy, narcissistic, he's not exactly the poster dog for man's best friend. Still and all, when Stan cuddles up just so, usually while I'm busy on my laptop, he somehow manages to pull off that mysterious canine magic trick. He makes me feel a little bit better about life. Stan also serves as my muse, albeit sporadically. As a matter of fact, Bob, the narrator of this novel, was modeled on Stan, right down to the misanthropy, the gluttony, and the odor. Bob originally appeared as a character in my novel, The One and Only Ivan, inspired by the true story of a western lowland gorilla. The real Ivan spent 27 years alone and caged in a shopping mall in Tacoma, Washington. Did he ever have a pal like Bob? I don't know, but there was a pet store at the mall where Ivan lived, and he had lots of visitors. It wasn't a stretch for me to imagine such a friendship evolving. And so, Bob was born. He had to be tiny, to fit in a hole of Ivan's cage. He had to be wily. He had to be a street dog, tough and blunt and no nonsense. You can imagine my delight when I learned that the inimitable Danny DeVito would be voicing Bob in the Disney, The One and Only Ivan movie. Yep, that's Bob all right. Bob's had a tough life. He's seen the darker side of humans. He doesn't really get the whole man's best friend thing. His best friend, as it happens, is a gorilla. He's carrying some pretty heavy baggage for such a little dog. All that regret from leaving Boss. And he faces down a lot in this story. Tornadoes and owls, floods and wolves, terror and guilt, and self-doubt. But through it all, Bob never loses his tiny mutt swagger, and he never stops listening to his good dog heart. Even if you're a devout cat person, I hope you enjoyed spending time with the guy. From the author, Katherine Applegate. I just really like that. I really enjoyed this book. She even has some things at the end after her thanks, like if you want to help gorillas, start here at www.gorillafund.org. If you want to help elephants, start here. She says it's just www.elephants.com or www.sheldrickwildlifetrust.org. SHELDRICKWILDLIFETRUST.org. And if you want to help homeless pets, start here. Your local animal shelter. They always need a helping hand.